Now, remember we talked about how the machine is our helper, right? Top stitching, edge stitching, you know, you have your throat bead with all your lines. So in this case, we're going to do, like, remember this is our foot. And then here is our needle. And you see how you have space between the needle and the foot. It's usually about a 16th. So we use the inner foot here or here. We use that as a guide, okay? We use it as a guide. It makes it easier. So, in our case, the way I have it right now, I'm going to put my left foot right in the ditch between the lining and the seam. Also, when you understitch, because you already have a regular seam, so you don't need to backstitch, okay? Because this is just, make sure it's flat, and then just keep your eye on the needle and keep your eye on the inner foot to kind of follow in the ditch, and you're going to get a perfect 16th of an inch. So you don't even have to do all the work by yourself. The machine will help you. 2.5 stitch lengths, and just run it off. Now, in real life, when we're going to do our pants, make sure you buy matching threads for your pants and for the lining. So, now I just have to run to the iron board for a minute, and I'm going to press this just slightly in. That's why the understitching is always so nice, because it makes that turn that gives you this perfect end. You know, on necklines, armholes, any kind of shape where you understitch, it pulls the outer edge slightly inward and helps you shape it. You know, so that the reason is you don't want this to curl out. You don't want to have a pocket where the lining is going to start peeking out. The understitch is going to prevent that. Now, before I'm going to press it, I'm going to take this and I'm going to trim it halfway. Now, if this was any heavier, you can grade it by cutting one of them shorter. But in this fabric, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so I trim it halfway. Now I'm going to press it to the inside, and guess what? We're almost done. This is a very easy pocket. This is an easy pocket. See, and on top of it, you get exercise. Where we have all these side benefits.
I have a question for you. Okay, if you're going to do a curved pocket opening, do you
then
put
you
your
clip.
seams first before you understitch?
Say that again.
If you have a curved seam, do you clip first before you understitch? Okay, so this is because it's straight,
right.
You don't have to do that.
But that's why I said this pocket don't need to be clipped because it's no curve. And you can see in that handout, they clipped in, you know, but grading is only necessary if you have a heavy fabric or something. This will not, you know, really do anything. But you want to press it nice. See, now this part is already perfect. I love understitching because
it's really good. It's a very
no,
nice
it does
touch.
so much for the garment. You know, like how else could you get such a perfect looking edge, right?
It was you to sew.
Yeah, but this is how you, this is part of what you really need to do. You have to love every seam you make, and you have to be into it, you know, like get into it. Now, when you take this now from this side, this piece is cut on a bias, and it tells you where the side seam is by the little extension. And so this little extension, see, it lines up with this extension. So you can put, and then this lines up over here you know, so you can pin it from the underside, because that's how you're going to be sewing it. The first and the last pin is always a good deal, because then after that you can just let it fall in place. And sometimes if it doesn't always line up 100%, this is your inner pocket, and you know, it's going to be more you see, you have your notches, you can line those up, and you can line it up as good as it works out for you, because sometimes with one being on a bias and the other one is straight, but this piece is on the inside. So now you just flip it over. You have the lining on top, and you come in from here again. It's a 1/2 inch seam. Go in a little bit, and then back up first. Because if you sew in and sew back and come forward, how many times did you just sew? 3 times. That's too much for a back stitching. You got this big blob of thread sitting there. So 2 is all you want. Then go in for your 1/2 inch, and then you kind of flip it and bring it around. Now, if you have a hard time with your curve, just kind of take it easy and, you know, pivot. I'm going to have to get a different foot for this machine. I don't like this foot. Take your time. Don't be in a rush. I'm always trying to rush because I want you to have enough time to work on this while you're in class. You see how I do my hand? See, that's how you manipulate the curve. You just sort of turn your wrist and pull it a little bit on the back end and bring it forward. Or you just put your needle down, pivot, and make the adjustment. Okay. Whenever you finish a seam, bring the take-up lever all the way to the top. Take your knee paddle, push it all the way to the right. That opens the upper tension, and look how easy it is, and you're ready for the next. So once you get a habit of doing that, you're never going to lose your threads, and it's just so, and then get rid of the tails. All right, now there's our pocket.
How come you didn't sew on this side?
Yeah, we don't need that sewn.
How come?
Because it's part of your side seam.
Oh. Okay.
So what I'm going to do now, you see, you answering your question, and I'm going to show you where the answer is. See, this part here, it's not sewn, because it's going to be part of the, if you would just do something twice. So right now, I'm going to line this up, make sure it's a nice, it fits into each other. Those things are important. You don't want something, you know, like where it sticks out a quarter. It has to, your pieces have to line up with each other. There is a purpose for having all those notches, because see, this little notch here ends up with that seam allowance right there. Okay, and then here you have a notch, see, that ends up right there. So if you do your job and cut, you know, according to the pattern, do everything according to the pattern, then it comes out automatically. It would line up quite nice. So now in here, the little tuck goes towards the center. So you take this notch, the first notch, and bring it over to the second one so that the fold faces towards the center. There is a real difference in how the pants is going to look if the tuck goes outward or inward. Now, if you have a real nice flat tummy, the inward looks just fine, but your tummy shows up. This one is usually more common, that, you know, it's flat. It brings that front nice and flat. So, anyway, you can choose a base stitch, or you can choose just a regular stitch. But this, a little, right around a 1/4 inch, or this is just temporary. You don't have to back stitch. You just hold it in place until this part is going to be added into your waistband, and then this part is going to be ended into the side seam. So, see, but you don't want to do it directly 1/2 inch, because when you do want to put it together, you want it just to disappear, and if you don't make a 1/2 inch a little smaller, you don't have to worry about pulling it out. You can just let it sit in there. So this finishes your front pocket. Nina, you want to take this with you?
Yes, thank you.
Because I already have a set.
That would be great.
You can take it apart if you want.
Oh, no.
Did Nina tell you that Nina, should I tell them?
What?
How we related? Or you tell them? What year was it?
1988 and 89. I went to Ray College of Design, where Fish was teaching.